All right, so I want to start this off just talking about the importance of maintaining momentum, and I want to go over some of the things that we've seen within Oregon OSHA over the years that enable companies to do well, okay? It is all about continuous improvement, right? So when you see a sentence that says, if you're not improving, what's the rest of that sentence? You're deteriorating. If you are standing still, you're going backwards, you're falling behind, okay? So continuous improvement really has to be an attitude. It has to be a mindset, a kind of a piece of who we are and how we do things. And we need to instill that into everybody that's working, okay, within our facilities. We want that attitude, that mindset that where we are today isn't going to be good enough tomorrow. And where we're going to be tomorrow won't cut it the day after. Who we are is always about continuously getting better, okay? So I want to share with you some of the lessons that we've learned. We did a SHARP graduate survey back in 2014. We sent out 123 of these surveys. We got 88 of them back, which is really a pretty good return. And so what we did was we said, you can get a high SHARP index score or a low SHARP index score. And these were surveys sent to SHARP graduates because we wanted to know, are these companies maintaining, are they continually improving, or are they falling off the turnip ground? Okay? So to get a SHARP index score, you had to have 10 out of 10 points on this survey. Anything less was looked at as a low SHARP index score. So it was a pretty tight bar. What we found was 34 of these companies had high SHARP index scores, 37% had low index scores, 29% didn't respond to the survey, okay? But of those companies that had high SHARP index scores, we saw some commonalities, some things that those companies do to maintain, okay? 81% of those companies with high index score were members of the SHARP Alliance. Okay, that told us something. What we also found was 78% of those companies that maintained a high index score had some kind of management change program in place. They were including their personnel in their continuity planning and how we stay where we are and get better. Okay? We found that 71% of those companies were using outside experts. We're bringing in other folks to help them get better. We also found that 69% of those companies continued to use either the SHARP elements or the VPP elements to continuously improve their safety and health management systems. So that told us some things that we thought were important and we wanted to share with the SHARP companies and the VPP companies. What we found was there are 5 factors that really influence long-term success. Okay, one of those was the time since graduation. The longer time after a company graduated, the better chance of them starting to fall off the turnip truck. Okay? But we also found that personnel continuity as part of their management of change was a positive. That the companies that were thinking about, okay, we've got some of these old gray-haired folks that are getting ready to move out the door, we need to start bringing in and grooming folks to take over. Okay? Those companies were successful. We also found that mentoring and networking was a strength for these companies that were continuing to do the right things. Told us that mentoring and networking was an important aspect, okay? We found out that these companies that were successful had regular consultations with outside experts. They brought in other companies, they brought in consultants, they brought in paid folks to help them, okay? They were doing a lot of networking. And then the other thing that is a factor that influences long-term success is continuous use of a single safety and health management system or occupational safety and health management system, okay? Not running from one to another or flavor of the month, but stick and stay and make it pay, stay with one of them. So these are things that definitely influence this ongoing long-term success. So some of the recommendations that Oregon OSHA made to our SHARP program is we want to make sure that companies that are working towards SHARP start to think about management of change training so that the people who work there are thinking about how we manage change and how personnel affects the upcoming change. We wanted to train SHARP companies on how to calculate DAR rates. What we did find was a number of them weren't doing it right. So we're spending more time up front now with SHARP companies and companies working towards SHARP to help them better understand how to do the calculations. We also now strongly encourage SHARP Alliance participation. The reason that we do that is because of the networking and the mentoring that goes on through this organization. The VPP companies in Oregon have found the SHARP Alliance to be their primary pathway or primary conduit for providing networking and working with other companies that want to get better. One of the things that the VPP language, when they changed it in 2009, the expectation of a VPP site is they're going to provide networking and mentoring with non-VPP companies. And in Oregon, the SHARP Alliance has become a pretty major conduit for that. Okay? So we encourage SHARP Alliance members to start mentoring and working with SHARP graduates after 3 years, so that we're relying less on Oregon OSHA and relying more on each other. And it has proven itself to be pretty successful. It's starting to work. Some of the changes that we made to SHARP, we added some stuff to the SHARP process about doing rate calculations, about management of change. We're including that stuff when we're working with companies. The safety continuity planning, we're expecting new SHARP commitment letters. When management changes at facilities, SHARP commitment letter and VPP commitment letter, update that stuff when you've got new leadership coming in. And networking, mentoring is a big, important part of getting better. So we added some things to our attributes of excellence into the SHARP. 58 elements that most of you are probably pretty familiar with to support these 4 major changes. Wanted to touch bases really quick. SHARP numbers in Oregon at the end of this federal fiscal year, which was September 30, we had 224 Oregon companies that have used SHARP successfully. 17 are what we call inactive graduates. They graduated the program, they're no longer in business. But 210 of these active sites are in the program. 29 sites are currently working towards SHARP, and that's changed a little bit in the last couple months. 20 current SHARP employers, 148 SHARP graduates, and of those 148, 13 of them went into VPP. Some really good numbers, some really positive things. People say, oh, SHARP's a great thing. It's easy to do. Well, no, it's not. We've had a number of companies that have tried SHARP and gotten out of it for whatever reason. It may be it's too hard. That's been sold to us. They quit working before they achieve SHARP for a variety of reasons, but it's not an easy thing. Now, we also found 64 companies actually achieved SHARP and then got out, either change business model, change corporations, or this is too hard, we can't maintain it. So it's not an easy thing to do, as most of you know, but it is a worthwhile thing to do. Main reasons what we found for dropping out, loss of momentum due to one or more things. Shift in the business model. Either we got bought out, taken over by somebody else, or new leadership comes in. So our priorities change. Change in leadership. Change in safety personnel was a big factor. And a lot of times, if you've got a safety director or safety manager who is really driving things, and that person moves on, we fall off the turnip truck, so to speak. Okay? Some of the reasons companies said it's just too hard to do. We can't achieve it, or we've achieved it, we can't maintain it. It's more work than we're ready to do. And that's totally up to the company. Okay, changes in priorities is another reason why companies were dropping out. And then there's still, and it blows me away, a belief that somehow some managers think that empowering employees somehow decreases their ability to get their job done. And I think most of the SHARP companies and VPP companies understand that empowering employees makes a manager more effective. But there is still that belief out there, okay? And then another reason that what we found was that companies were finding that some employees didn't want to step up. They didn't want to get involved. The attitude was, hey, it's not my job. I'm not going to do it. And those are things that we want you to be aware of. that could be detrimental to what you're trying to accomplish. Okay? I want to close out by talking about just a few VPP case studies. These are VPP sites. Some of them are former SHARP sites that moved into VPP that are no longer there, okay, for whatever reason. RFP Dillard, the plant manager got promoted, safety director retired. They kind of fell off. The impetus wasn't there anymore. Stanley Hydraulic Tools was another long-time VPP site. Multiple changes in safety leadership and senior leadership at the site, and they started veering off in a different direction. PGE in Coyote Springs, what hurt them, again, a longtime SHARP company got into VPP. They found a lack of corporate support, and the follow-through wasn't there, and they weren't able to maintain what they needed. GP Coos Bay and RFP Coquille were both taken down by a breakdown in the relationship between labor and management. That spilled over into safety, and they weren't able to maintain. So these are things that I want you to think about that could affect your programs as well. Weyerhaeuser Tops, they had a bunch of retirement at the senior and supportive level. They had only 18 guys that worked there, but a little over half of them retired in a 2-year period. And it totally changed the culture of the workforce, and that changed how they did safety. RFP Riddle and Georgia Pacific Northwest Service Centers, the lack of corporate support and site leadership. They decided this is not the direction that they wanted to go, and they changed. So these are things that can harm you. One of the things that can help you is mentoring, okay? Sharing what we're doing well, what we're trying to do with this class. Sharing things that work, sharing things that don't work, so that you don't have to go down the path that somebody else has already gone down that didn't get them where they wanted to be. Okay, learn from somebody that's already done it. The ability to go into a company that's doing it right and see what it looks like in action can really be a powerful, powerful tool to help you to see what a culture of continuous improvement looks like, what it feels like, how they act. It can go a long ways to helping you get where you want to be. Motivating the organization, again, to bring in a member of a VPP company to come and visit with your safety committee and share with you, and you were able to ask them questions, can go a long ways to helping some of the supervisors and managers that might be naysayers, to help them start to get on board, and let you know and show you by sharing what they do, what meaningful and active employment or employee involvement can look like and translate into. Networking, again, a big part of what the SHARP Alliance does and has been doing now for 18 years. You know, it's the ability to share this information with each other. You know, I had a number of the SHARP Alliance board members raise their hands earlier. These folks I can call on. They call on each other. I think most of us have each other on speed dial. And it's about putting a face to a name. It's about better understanding who you can go to get some help. Because for most cases, these people have already gone through what you're going through. Okay? And we talk about R&D. You know, don't recreate the wheel. If somebody's already doing it right, follow it. You know, rip it off and duplicate it. Good old R&D. That's how we get better. Don't go down the wrong path if you don't have to. If you can follow somebody's trail. Okay? Find out what works. Find out what doesn't work. Okay? And the best people to find that out from, people that have already done it. Okay? And that's what then we start to develop these relationships with each other that makes us all individually better and collectively stronger. And that, I think, for me is the most important piece, is that we're individually getting better at what we do, but collectively we're making huge improvements and increases in what we do. Okay? And where do we do that? Is through these mentoring and networking groups, and there is a bunch of them nationwide. You know, the ASSP, formerly ASSE, is a nationwide group, but we've also got groups here in Oregon. Back up. There's a Cascade chapter, there's a Southern Oregon chapter, and there's a Columbia chapter of the American Society of Safety Professionals that you can join. That you can go to these visits. Yes, Dwayne.
And there are sections, one in Bend and one in Salem.
And so these are all over the place. The other piece that I wanted to, going the wrong way. So the Region 10 of the VPP-PA, now Region 10 is Oregon, Washington, Idaho, and Alaska. We also have close by Region 9 of the VPP-PA, and that's California, Arizona, Nevada, and Hawaii, right? And Guam. Okay. The Oregon SHARP Alliance, we've got 8 regions in Oregon, so you don't have to go far to plug into the Oregon SHARP Alliance. The Central Oregon Safety and Health Association over in Bend. There's the Douglas County Safety Association down in the Roseburg area. Redwood Safety Association in the Grants Pass area. The Klamath Safety Group over in the Klamath Falls area. I'm not sure what else there are up in the Portland metro area, but I'm pretty sure there are some other things that you can plug into. If nothing else, Region 1 of the Oregon SHARP Alliance in the Portland metro area. So these are some organizations that if you haven't plugged into already, I strongly urge you to do so. Tim.
Mark, do these local organizations, they all have meetings like Redwood Safety Association. Do they have pre-planned meetings so we know when they are?
Some of them do, some of them don't. Yeah, the best thing to do is try to find them, and most of them, you can just Google them and find them. Some of them have a really good laid out schedule, like we do with the Redwood Safety. Others, not so much. Like Central Oregon, they have a monthly meeting, but I don't know that they do a whole lot of training in those. In Region 1, you guys are doing a quarterly training.
Shonda sets that up, does a great job.
So we do monthly tours, so we'll do a tour every month at a facility and kind of afterwards have lunch and some type of make a roundtable discussion of, best practices or whatever might be going on at your facility, and then quarterly we have a training topic and then usually a tour of that facility as well. So, and it's on the calendar.
And it's all about helping each other get better. It's, we're not in this alone. And so networking with these other groups can really help you go a long way. And if you're not plugged into one now, I strongly urge you to do that. Okay? The other thing I want to touch on is use your annual self-evaluation process. Okay? VPP has a specific annual self-evaluation process that they're expected to use every year. The SHARP program has a SHARP evaluation process that you're expected to use every year. So continue to use these things to help you get better, to evaluate where you are and look at where you want to go and start using them as an action plan. And when you're doing these things, have employees do it. Because what we want to try to do with this annual self-evaluation process is avoid this sine wave where we're dialed and then we're not dialed, and then we're dialed again and we're not dialed again. And we see this wave going all year long, okay? If you can take your self-evaluation process and try to get it so we stay kind of closer to the middle and we're not really good and not really good, and, doing this thing and start leveling that out, we can start to make a lot of improvements. Okay? Come on. There we go. All right. So we understand VPP participants have to continue it, can demonstrate continuous improvement. That is an expectation of VPP. Continuous improvement in what they do and how well their safety and health management system works. That is the expectation for a VPP site. And these annual self-evaluations help you then to measure what you're doing well, what you're not doing so well at. Okay, and identify those areas where you need to improve, and then determine what you need to do to make it better. Use your strengths to improve your weaknesses. Okay, when Oregon OSHA comes in at a VPP site or even at a SHARP site to do the annual evaluation, we're really coming in to verify that you guys are doing what you say you're doing. If we come in and find out you're not doing things, now we've got issues and we've got to try to get that fixed. Okay, does that make sense? All right.